Imagine this. You're in the cockpit of an F-18. The entire airframe is groaning, just screaming under the strain of a high-G turn. Out the canopy, the world is a violent, beautiful blur of desert floor and blinding blue sky. Inside, every alarm is shrieking. There's this immense pressure, like a physical weight, an invisible giant pushing you back into your seat, and it's getting hard to breathe, hard to even think straight. Your eyes are darting across the instruments, a frantic dance of numbers and lights on the heads-up display. But for just a fraction of a second, your gaze drops to your wrist. And strapped tightly over your flight suit is a chronograph. It's matte black, completely stripped of any shine. It's a tool, not a piece of jewelry. Its bright red seconds hand just sweeps forward, relentless, totally unbothered by the chaos erupting all around it. And this watch? Well, this watch is holding a secret that has been locked away in total darkness for 36 years. So how in the world does a watch from a 1986 blockbuster film just reappear 3.5 decades later on the wrist of the very same character, looking like not a single day has passed? I mean, is it a really clever replica, a perfect modern reissue, or is it something more, something almost unbelievable? Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the incredible and mostly untold stories of the watches in Top Gun Maverick. We're going to solve the mystery of a timepiece that was preserved like a piece of cinematic treasure. We'll explore the authentic military hardware worn by a whole new generation of pilots. And we're going to reveal the deeply personal story behind a classic watch that was, get this, never even meant to be a movie prop in the first place. You know, every great story needs a hero. And in the world of watches, this one is an absolute legend. It's the timepiece that helped define one of the most iconic movie characters of all time, the rule-breaking, anti-authority pilot who just lived on the edge. This is the story of the all-black chronograph worn by Captain Pete Maverick Mitchell. This watch didn't just join a category of timepieces, it literally created one. You have to understand, before 1972, a luxury sports watch was made of steel, and that steel was polished and it was shiny. That was just the rule. Then came Ferdinand Porsche. Yes, the very same design genius who gave us the iconic 911 sports car. He wanted to create a watch that was a pure extension of his automotive philosophy. Function always comes first. So we looked at the dashboard of his car. The gauges were matte black with simple white and red hands for maximum legibility and absolutely zero glare. And he had this brilliant idea. Why couldn't a watch be just like that? The result was the Porsche Design Chronograph 1. It was the first watch ever to be coated in this durable, matte black finish called PVD. It was stealthy, it was aggressive, and it was completely new. This wasn't just a watch, it was a statement. Its journey is nothing short of iconic. Launched in '72, it quickly became the watch for designers, architects, and of course, race car drivers. But its place in pop culture was cemented forever in 1986, when it found its way onto the wrist of a young, reckless naval aviator named Maverick. The watch was a perfect match for his character, unconventional, a bit of a rebel, and built for pure, raw performance. And then, for decades, it just kind of vanished from the public eye. It became this cult classic for collectors, only to make a stunning and really mysterious comeback in 2022. But here's where it gets interesting. Eagle-eyed fans, the real watch nerds, notice something strange. In the original 1986 film, if you look at the close-ups, that watch has clearly lived a life. Its black PVD coating is worn down, it's scratched on the bracelet and the case, showing the silver-colored steel underneath. It looks used, it looks loved, exactly how a real tool watch should. Now, fast forward to 2022, and the watch in Maverick's wrist looks perfect. Brand new, even. The PVD coating is flawless, deep, uniform. And this simple observation sparked a massive debate in online forums and watch communities everywhere. And that leads us to the central question, right? Could it possibly be the same watch? I mean, just think about it logically for a second. Movie props are notoriously difficult to track. They get lost, they get sold at auction, or they just fall apart after sitting in a dusty warehouse for years. The idea that a watch used in a high-action film from the mid-'80s would not only survive but be preserved in perfect mint condition for over 30 years, it seems impossible. The logical assumption was that the production team just sourced a new old stock vintage model, or maybe even a modern reissue. It couldn't be the original. Could it? Well, the answer is one of the most incredible behind-the-scenes stories in modern cinema. Yes, it is the exact screen-worn watch from 1986. Not a replica, not a replacement, the very same timepiece that was on Tom Cruise's wrist when he first felt the need for speed. We'll get to how in a moment, but first, while Maverick and his watch represent the past, we really need to meet the future. So while Maverick is holding on to his past, he's been tasked with training the future. And that new generation of elite pilots has its own distinct wristwear, a choice that grounds the film in absolute, real-world authenticity. This one detail builds the legitimacy of the entire film. See, the filmmakers didn't just pick a cool-looking pilot's watch from a catalog, they went straight to the source. The Swiss watchmaker IWC Schaffhausen has a formal, long-standing partnership with the actual United States Navy Strike Fighter Tactics Instructor Program, the real Top Gun. They create these special edition watches that you just cannot buy in a store. They have to be earned. They are available only to graduates of that elite program, which makes them one of the most exclusive and authentic military-issued watches in the entire world. So when you see characters like Rooster, Phoenix, and Bob on screen, the watches they're wearing are the real deal. They're wearing the IWC Pilot's Watch Chronograph Strike Fighter Tactics Instructor Edition. The film's commitment to detail here is just brilliant. These watches are housed in a case made of black zirconium oxide ceramic, a material that is incredibly hard and scratch-resistant. And if you look closely at the dial, right there at 9 o'clock, you'll see the official Top Gun patch. It's such a subtle detail, but it speaks volumes. It's a badge of honor. It's a symbol that you are, without a doubt, the best of the best. And the authenticity doesn't stop with the pilots. The prop master established this really clear horological hierarchy. So while the aviators in the cockpit are wearing these rugged, black ceramic pilot's watches designed for combat, the admirals and higher-ranking officers are seen wearing a different IWC model, the elegant and classic Portugeser. It's a fantastic piece of character building through watches. It shows a progression. The tactical tool watches are for the field, the more refined, classic watches are for the brass who command from behind a desk. Okay, so we have Maverick's rebellious icon and the squadron's authentic military hardware. But there's a third, and really crucial watch in this film. It's one that tells a completely different kind of story. It's not about G-forces or dogfights. It's about independence, history, and a quiet, unshakable confidence. And it belongs to Penny Benjamin. Jennifer Connelly's character wears a vintage Rolex Explorer, and it looks to be a reference 1016. It is an absolutely perfect choice for her. See, the Explorer is not a pilot's watch. It's an adventurer's watch, born from the conquest of Mount Everest back in the 1950s. It's tough, it's reliable, and it's profoundly understated. It doesn't have any chronographs, no rotating bezels, just the time, presented on that simple black dial with its signature 3, 6, and 9 numerals. The watch tells you that her world is not defined by Mavericks. She's a successful single mother, a business owner, an accomplished sailor. She's an adventurer in her own right. The watch is a symbol of her independence, a piece of timeless, functional style that has its own stories to tell, long before Maverick flew back into her life. So now that we've met our 3 horological stars, let's get to the best part, the stories of how they actually made it to the screen. And trust me, these are not your typical product placement deals you see in most blockbusters. These are stories of chance encounters, legendary producers, and personal connections that make the film's watch game unlike any other. The IWC partnership came about through pure, amazing serendipity. The film's property master, a guy named Robbie Duncan, was out in the Nevada desert prepping for the shoot. He was in a bar and happened to meet a real-life Navy pilot who was wearing an IWC Top Gun Edition watch. They got to talking, and the pilot mentioned that he actually knew the brand's CEO and could make an introduction. So what happens next? Incredibly, the CEO, Christoph Granger, he doesn't just send a marketing team or a box of watches. He personally flies to the set to meet with the crew. The partnership was born right there in the desert out of a shared, genuine passion for aviation and authenticity. And that's why the watches feel so right on screen. They come from a place of real connection, not a boardroom. Okay, so let's solve the central mystery. Maverick's pristine chronograph. How did the original survive, and why does it look brand new? The answer is one man. Jerry Bruckheimer. The legendary producer of both the original and the sequel is a man who understands the power of cinematic history. After the original Top Gun wrapped way back in 1986, he didn't just let the watch disappear into a props warehouse. No, he took it, placed it in his personal safe, and he kept it there for 36 years. It wasn't a prop gathering dust, it was a treasure being preserved. When it was finally time to film the sequel, he simply opened the safe. The watch went from the set into the safe, and 36 years later, right back onto the set. This wasn't just a prop, it was a time capsule. The story of Penny's Rolex Explorer is, well, it's perhaps even more charming and personal. It wasn't sourced by the prop department at all. It wasn't chosen from some catalog. It was a personal watch belonging to one of the producer's wives. They needed a watch that fit Penny's character, something classic, independent, not flashy. And she graciously loaned her very own vintage Rolex for the film. This adds such a beautiful, authentic layer to its presence on screen. It has a real life, a real history. It was worn and loved long before the cameras ever started rolling, making it the most genuinely personal timepiece in the entire movie. A film this massive doesn't just entertain us, it influences culture. And when it comes to watches, that influence is immediate, it's powerful, and it's measurable. The release of Top Gun Maverick didn't just put these watches on the big screen, it sent absolute shockwaves through the collector community and created what we now call the Top Gun effect. Let's talk numbers, because they tell the story. Before the sequel, a vintage Porsche Design Chronograph 1 by Orfina was a respected watch, but it was a somewhat niche collector's item. You could find good examples for around, say, $3,000 to $4,000. After the film's trailer dropped, and especially after its release, demand just exploded. The Top Gun effect was real. Prices for this specific model surged, now commanding close to $10,000 or even more for a piece in excellent condition. The film reminded an entire generation just how cool this watch was, and a whole new generation wanted a piece of that Maverick magic for themselves.
The legacy for each of these watches was cemented in film history. The Porsche design went from being a cool 70s chronograph to a true cinematic icon, right up there with James Bond's Submariner or Steve McQueen's Monaco. For IWC, the film was the ultimate validation. It solidified their claim as the authentic pilot's watch brand by showcasing their real military connection to a global audience of millions. And the Rolex Explorer, which was already a legend, gained this new romantic and adventurous context, proving its timeless versatility once again.
So here we are. We have 3 incredible watches, each with an amazing and totally authentic story. We have an icon preserved in a producer's safe, a professional tool watch straight from a real-world flight school, and a timeless classic borrowed from a personal collection. It is a tough choice for sure, but it is time to make a call. First up, you have the icon, Maverick's Porsche Design Chronograph. It's the ultimate rebel's watch. It's aggressive, it's historic, and it has that direct, unbroken 36-year link to the hero of the story. Owning this watch is like owning a piece of Maverick's anti-authority soul. Then you have the professional, the IWC Top Gun worn by Rooster and the whole squadron. This is the choice for the person who values authenticity and modern engineering above everything else. It represents a direct connection to a real-world elite institution and the precision of modern military aviation. And finally, you have the classic, Penny's vintage Rolex Explorer. It's understated, elegant, and just impossibly versatile. It represents a story that exists entirely outside the world of fighter jets, a personal story of adventure, independence, and quiet history. So if I could only have one, which one would it be? You know, the Porsche design story is almost unbelievable, and the IWC connection is unimpeachably authentic. But for me, the watch that tells the very best story is Penny's Rolex Explorer. And here's why. The other 2 watches, as amazing as they are, were there to serve the film. They were props, selected to build a character. The Rolex was different. It was a real personal object with its own life that was loaned to the film. It had a history before the movie, and it will have one long after. And that, for my money, makes it the most authentic piece of storytelling on screen. You can find a beautiful vintage 1016 like hers on the market today for anywhere between $15,000 and $25,000, which is just a testament to its enduring, timeless legacy. So that's the journey of the watches of Top Gun Maverick, a story of icons preserved, of real-world authenticity, and of quiet personal history. It's really a masterclass in how watches don't just tell time, they tell our stories. It reminds me a little bit of the story behind Paul Newman's own Rolex Daytona, another watch with a personal history so powerful it makes it priceless. But now it's your turn. Are you picking the icon, the professional, or the classic? Let me know down in the comments which watch from this story you would pick. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe. New watch stories every week. Watch everything. Tick drop.